Boy, this is going to be fun. We're supposed to have a moderator, but the moderator didn't show up, so I'm going to be doing the moderating. Yay! On this side, we have the Beach Boys, we have the Beatles, we have the Rolling Stones. Everybody thinks that they're the coolest guys on the block. We've got HTML5, we've got Unity, you name it, we've got them all here. So first of all, I'd like each of the panel members to sort of wave, tell you their name, and tell you which corner that they're representing. We'll start at this side.
Hello, Guy BENDOV on the right corner. I'm the CEO of Sidekick Games. We're using Unity 3D as an engine to develop our games that are usually cross-platform, iOS, Android, Kindle, and Windows 8.
Okay, so Paul says, can we have a cheer from the audience? Who's doing Unity development? Okay. Next.
Hello, my name is Moshe. I'm the CTO of Gingy. And we've developed our own game engine for cross-platform development from scratch, basically.
Okay, do we have any Gingy fans in the audience? There we go. Next, Albert.
My name is Albert LAI. I'm of a company called Big Viking Games. I'm one of the co-founders, and we work in HTML5.
Any HTML5 fans here? Woo.
You're all idiots.
My name is Zach Bowling. I work for a company called The Portable, and we are the financial backers behind the Coco Studio project. So I'm here to promote native technologies.
Any native fans here?
Come on.
Okay, we'll do it with the panel with a show of hands. If I was developing a game for Android, which of your platforms would I be able to use? Hands up if I'd be able to use your... Okay, how about iOS? Web, browser-based? Any BlackBerry fans up on the stage?
The answer can work on.
Windows 8? Console?
Are you sure?
Ask me later.
Okay, let me ask you another. We're going to go down the panel. I'm doing a 2D game. Why should I use the platform that you like the best?
I'm defending here another company called Unity. That said, you know, as a studio, and from a studio perspective, we decided to go on Unity even on 3 production that's actually very 2D-ish. And as you know, Unity, by its name, Unity 3D, started as 3D, and it's still a lot of the value there is when you create 3D game. They have come up with tools to cover 2D production, which as a developer are very easy for us, and as we take basically the same teams or similar team members that worked on other game and put them in our production process, and as a studio we are running about 4 production processes at the same time, it was easy for us to have them use the same environment and cover 2D as well, and that's the big value for us.
Okay, so basically with Gingy, we started by searching for cross-platform solutions out there for 2D games. This is what we do. And the issues that we encountered was basically that the cross-platform solution out there cover mostly the language barrier. You can compile your application everywhere, but the thing that we wanted was actually to have a single code base and publish to all, and to solve the real fragmentations out there, meaning the UI differentiations, resolution bases and stuff like that, and also the differentiations in CPUs and GPUs. And basically what we did is we have a liquid UI unit module that actually can smartly stretch your application or game on any device without any changes, so you can actually have and very similarly, all the applications look very similarly on all the devices, so you can actually have an application, write it once and then publish to all, and then if you have any updates that you want to add to your device or anything that you want to add in, you will do it on a single code base, meaning you will not have any multiple pipelines once you develop your game. We have a lot of tools to help build 2D games that help really shorten the development times. I will not go into them because it will take a lot of time. But basically, we do, the gist that I want you to get is that we do something that will make you write a single code base and publish everywhere.
It's in ActionScript, correct, or
Yes,
C++?
ActionScript 3.
Okay. So HTML5, it's HTML, right? Everyone knows HTML. You can find a lot of JavaScript developers. So obviously that's an advantage. HTML5, I would say, works best for menu-driven games. You can use Canvas, you can use DOM. DOM definitely works out of the box very well for 2D menu-driven games, but still I would advise people to, if you're looking at HTML5, to go down the Canvas path. You will get better performance. You do have to do a little bit more legwork of Canvas. It's something that most of the other platforms won't allow you to do, is very, very frictionless real-time updates to both mobile and desktop devices. So, one of the key things for us in selecting HTML5 was that if we have a change in our mobile application, that whatever we change there is seamlessly and immediately reflected on a web-based or PC-based web browser. And for us, that's really important because our players and the games that we build, we want our players to be able to play have the exact same experience on mobile as they do on Facebook. And not having a plugin, unlike Unity, is obviously something that's a real benefit, and we're trying to reduce friction.
Yeah, so I'm here mostly representing CocoaStudio, which is still the most popular 2D engine for iOS today, and more games have shipped on CocoaStudio. And from that perspective, I think there's clear reason why. So if you're building a 2D game, even today, even with all the new technologies that are out there, it's still the most de facto. You'll find more resources, more information about it. And the reason why it really kind of has become de facto, at least for 2D games. Now, I think Unity is killing it in the 3D space, but for 2D games, for casual games, when you get the performance and load times that you really absolutely need, and then you get the frame rates that you need. So from that perspective, you're getting all the benefit of the fast casual kind of experience that you need with a 2D game that you kind of expect, that you'll only really get out of using native tools and really pulling out every MIPS out of every CPU cycle that you have on your processor. And so from that perspective, I think you'll find more of the bigger studios and the bigger game houses, Wooga, Zanga, Pocket Gems, most of them are still focused on CocoaStudio. So from that perspective, if you're looking for something to adopt for for 2D game development, I think it's still the best solution.
What about the audience? How many 2D and how many 3D? Raise of hands for 2D developers. Most of them. And 3D? There's just a couple. So very quickly, in one or two sentences, coming back this way again, why is your solution the best for 3D?
For 3D, we're
Only
probably...
two sentences, come on.
Oh, okay. Probably not the best. And use Unity for 3D.
Don't bother. Unless you're on the web and you enjoy pain and you're willing to put up with WebGL, which is even worse than Canvas and DOM from a tools perspective. But I'm hopeful that in the future, better and better tools are going to come down the pipeline, but it's still very early.
I love the honesty, but that was more than two sentences. Come on, this way.
So I'm going to quote the guys to my left. We are still not with the full 3D solution, so it's not there. We're not targeting 3D gaming. So for now, I think also the 3D is Unity is the best. Yeah, we have a winner.
We have a winner for 3D. Tools. So I'm a development studio. Things don't get created from thin air. I have to hire people, and we need to provide tools to them. What good developer tools are there to support the platform of your choice?
That's a great question. We, as a mid-size developer, and we're anywhere between 20 to 30 people, depending on the amount of production going. It was very important for us to have a very strong ecosystem of tools, services, and assets. Unity has the Unity Asset Store that provides you a lot of shortcuts in a way if you need anything from certain technology, certain feature, whether it's front-end feature or back-end. Certain assets which enable us to create prototypes actually very, very quickly and test them with the market. And that vibrant community of developers, technology providers, service providers around the Unity engine for the size of our studio, and certainly if you're bigger or I guess even if you're smaller, is a big, big upside for us.
What tools do you have?
Yes, so basically we work with the ActionScript tree, meaning that we work with everything that Flash Player and Air provide with Adobe. So we are talking also on a very big community and very, very vast tools for creating assets and like Flash and the tools that everybody knows from casual and social gaming. That's for the aspect of the visual side. There are frameworks coming out basically on a weekly basis for physics engines and anything you'd ever need, hit detection, anything that a 2D game needs and will ever need. There are tools coming out. We came out with a lot of tools for analytics out of the box. You will just need, it's 2 lines of code and you have analytics embedded in your application. We have screen management. We have tutorial system that's fully interactive in your game. It will take only the time that it takes to write the tutorial lessons themselves, the sentences that you want to show. It's fully interactive. It waits for customized events. We have all sorts of tools, animations. It's endless possibilities, and all of those come within G&G.
Albert, what tools do you use?
The tools are quite frankly crap, and we've had to build the vast majority of our tools in-house. And we did that because there are existing tools out there that are good if you don't have the following constraints. If you're not constrained by this purist view that we have of HTML5, which is that we want whatever code that we write to be able to be playable and consumed within a open web browser on any device, then it restricts you from using something like LAI or game closure, which are basically tools that compile down your JavaScript into some form of native code, which allows you to do a lot more animation, have much higher performance on your HTML5 game, but it's no longer really HTML5 because it's actually compiled to native code, and you're not able to really run it in the open web, in a open web mobile browser, which is quite frankly where I feel like the opportunity, the massive opportunity around HTML5 lies. Having said that, the tools from LAI and game closure do accelerate development quite a bit.
I got a question. What about using tools like Emscripten to get native code back to JavaScript again and make it?
Yeah, we're experimenting with some of that, but I think it's still early days for that, and I'm quite frankly not sure how well it does in mobile right now.
Yeah, so I can answer that one a little bit more, being the native guy and looking at the Emscripten option. So just strictly speaking about Cocos and then how that kind of translates to even going to the web for a lot of customers. With the fact that Cocos has been one of the oldest tools, it came out in 2008, and now has this rich ecosystem, being this open source project with everybody contributing to it, and then you get all these tools that help with every part of the pipeline, from like your designers to everything, that it's, to answer the original question first, but it really has turned into probably one of the biggest ecosystems. It doesn't have a central store like Unity, but it does have thousands of developers using it and contributing back. And then for the native users, there's several branches of Cocos, like Cocos HTML, that have a solution for going with JavaScript bindings, but then you can compile either your C or C++ code with Emscripten to tie with that. So if you're looking for that broad solution, that was Zynga's vision when they were working with this, is that you could use JavaScript, but you weren't using full HTML. You were using just JavaScript, the language, for all of its benefits. And then you get to take that and bind that to native interfaces for each platform that you're really targeting. So Canvas and WebGL on some platforms, or using whatever view system you want, even XNA on old Xboxes. And that was the vision. Whether or not that's held true is kind of, it's a fragmented environment. But because it's open source, there's thousands of variants, but kind of a rich ecosystem for that.
There was one thing that I want to add about HTML5 that's kind of cool, that's unique to the tools that we've been able to build, that all of you can build eventually as well, and we might even partner with others on this. But we've built an internal tool that allows for our artists to actually, if they wanted to, if we want to let them, directly deploy code directly from Photoshop. So meaning, if I were to move a button from the left to right inside of Photoshop, I can have that change reflected live in my player's hands in real time, which is pretty awesome if you want to do crazy things to your players, or if you want to see how your changes actually look across devices in real time. So being, some of our developers or our artists are able to move something, inside of Photoshop and have a tablet and a phone in front of them and see exactly what it's going to look like without recompiling or doing even a refresh.
We're going to start this ending and work back again. So tools are part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the warm bodies to use the tools, the developers. So if you put a job description up saying, hey, I'm looking for a developer, and you say requires HTML5 skills or C++, how easy is it to find good, talented developers using the tool of your choice?
Well, okay, for us, it's quite easy depending on what part of the world you're in. If you're in the Bay Area, finding an iOS developer is just walking outside and tripping somebody. But if you're in other parts of the world, it can be harder. So different markets, China is harder for iOS, but you'll find more popularity with Android. With a solution with ours, as long as you have a background in C and C++ or Objective-C for the iOS side, which is not so hard to find, it's not a problem. So pretty much any market you're in, it's not that hard to find a native developer.
Albert, how easy is it to find HTML5 developers?
Well, there's HTML5 on the front end. So if you're looking at front-end HTML5 developers and JavaScript developers, there's a difference between a JavaScript web developer and a JavaScript games developer. It's just, it's night and day, the level of difficulty and skill and frustration, mostly the frustration. So it's very hard. But the sort of the fortunate thing is, just because you're using JavaScript on the client side doesn't mean you're stuck using JavaScript and complex nascent technology on the server side. So in our case, we did you start using Node. Now we're using a combination of Node and other languages on the server side.
So basically, I just want to add one thing to the previous question before I go into that. I totally forgot to talk about the fact that in tools perspective, we have an IDE that actually you can drag and drop your way into an application that actually uses and app uses all our features and everything that we provide within our ecosystem. And it's pretty intense. You can also download it for free in our website, and I will not do any commercials here, but I think that's enough. But it's pretty intensive tool that can do a lot of the kickstart your application and embedding your assets and using them correctly. As for the question we're currently talking about, Flash developers, ActionScript developers are very handy. There are a lot of studios that develop games for Facebook and for the web. Most of them don't even know how easy it is to start working on mobile applications, because basically Adobe did a very, very bad job publicizing themselves in the previous years with the mobile market, and so people do not even try. But anyone who knows how to write a game in Flash for Facebook or for the web knows how to write a game with Gingy.
And how easy is it to find Unity 3D developers these days?
It's pretty easy. Where we're headquartered in Tel Aviv in Israel, there's a lot of people in the game industry that know how to use Unity, especially when it comes to people who develop or aspire to develop more high-end 3D games. That said, in Unity, I think like Flash in the early days, you have kind of two tiers that we see. One is the students, early comers, people who know how to use the tools that are really kind of present themselves very clearly, like the IDE environment, and know how to integrate stuff, build quickly stuff with the interface. And then the more deeper, I want to say professional programmers, and that's always hard to find. People who are very good programmers, especially on the technical side, obviously, and are very good with Unity. That's always a challenge if you find somebody like that. We did find a few people who were that and join our team. And in some cases, we actually look for great programmers, great usually C++ programmers. And through a very quick process, they were becoming really high-end Unity programmers. And by that actually kind of upping their own value and our value as a group.
I hope the audience has some questions, because I'm going to be drying up pretty soon, but we're going to start back at the far end again. Nothing's for free, so for your particular platform of choice, what does it cost me to get a development license? Are there ongoing license fees? Is it free? Where do you make the money? Or where does the tool developer make his money from those things?
Okay, so so I don't know if I clarified in this at the beginning. We do two things at our company. We do a project called Sprite Builder, which is completely open source and free. And if you're building something for iOS, it is free. It's open source, so you're paying the $100 to Apple and you're shipping. And there's absolutely no cost, although we do offer commercial support for bigger companies that want it. But, I mean, you don't need it in a lot of cases. But when it comes to coming to Android, if you're talking about specifically what we do, there's two kind of camps with Cocos. There's Cocos GDX and Cocos. And with us, we prefer Objective-C, and then with Objective-C, we have different models that kind of fit all different kind of price budgets. It starts at $1,000 for an indie, and then it works its way up mostly on support. And if you're using Cocos CDX, it's still completely free, but you're on your own. And so if you have any bugs or anything, you'll have to contract out with some third party to find support. So if you're working with us, you basically get that built in, and it's a modest price, and you get the full support and everything coming to multiple platforms.
Most of the tools are either free or very, very low cost in the HTML5 world, and chances are you're going to end up building a lot on your own anyways. But the tools that are available out there are very, very cheap, in the order of, like less than $1,000.
So basically, I'll divide my answer into two. There is the Air license that you need, of course, and that's Adobe, and you pay a monthly fee, but you get the Creative Cloud. And for Gingy, we are a completely free solution. For now, we do have a splash screen running 3 to 5 seconds in the beginning of the game. And we will have in the future, everything we offer now is free, and we will have in the future additional, we'll call it plugins, that will make development time for a lot of the most popular features in a game. Will make it a walk in the park, and you will probably need to pay for that, but that's something that currently you don't need to pay for anything. You can download it from our website, just give us your company name and email address, and that's it. And also support, of course. If you need any in-depth support, we sell that also.
So I don't have a price sheet for Unity, but you can download Unity for free, play around with that. You can actually deploy on different platforms games that will feature the Unity logo. When it comes to commercializing games on mobile, and if you want to remove the splash screen and stuff like that, you need to buy the Pro license, and that's usually a few thousands of dollars per seat, which means that you can buy once, and in that one seat you can do a lot of the work, and if you want more tool, you buy more, and that's definitely reasonable for a mid-size and definitely big studios. And I know the guys in Unity are still very eager to get the Unity name out. So if you are adding their logo in your game here and there, they would, give you different quotes for specific games or specific licenses. So it's worthwhile being in touch with their team, whether it's their sales team or marketing teams.
How about sensitivity of things like encapsulation and security? If I'm writing my code and I'm shipping it, certain parts of the technology, I'm kind of airing my laundry in public. Somebody can view the source and sort of find out what's sort of going on. Can you describe each of your technologies and why you think yours is a little bit more secure? You can keep your game logic locked away from evil script kiddies.
Well, can I get shares in Unity now? Well, with Unity, obviously they export a build that is encapsulated. It's impossible, as far as I know, to look into the inside code. And as a studio who's shipping a portfolio of games, it's actually for us pretty important, because on top of the tools that we get, out of the box from Unity, we have created set of features, tools that we want to keep in-house. It's kind of our internal IP that allows us to provide better engagement, social features, and many, many other features, which we don't really want out. And again, for our size, definitely for bigger outfits, it's a good solution.
Well, I have to say that I will wear my programmer hat right now, and as a programmer, everything is hackable, and I've been a hobbyist hacker in my life a few times, so there's nothing that's not hackable. You just need to spend the right amount of time. But basically, there are a lot of code scramblers and a lot of security adders, and Flash is probably the most the most being hacked and secured language out there, so ActionScript 3 I mean. So basically you have a lot of ways to secure your code. I can say that if you have something that's worth a lot of money and you try to obfuscate it, and somebody will try to get it, they will probably get it eventually, but it's very hard and very difficult with the tools that are working today to actually do that. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, I'm with this guy on the right. Like JavaScript in HTML5 is there's only so much you can do to obfuscate, but I mean ultimately a lot of our magic happens on the server side, so we're able to secure the game that way. So there's not a lot that you can do on the client side to manipulate the game environment to get an advantage over other players. So that's really how we secure our game from a gameplay perspective.
So, are any of you guys engineers at all?
Sorry?
Are any of you guys engineers?
I'm the least in engineering.
Okay. All right, just wondering. Because I can geek
Will this
out.
modify your answer, depending on what got you?
Oh, no, well, I could geek out and do some engineering talk here. I used to work on Mono, which powers Unity. And so I can speak about Unity a little bit, and that the way that they work when they compile for iOS and Android is they do AOT compile. What that means is they ahead of time compile everything into native code. So they do get some level of obfuscation being native, but even being native, like we do, pure native, it's not impossible. It is not difficult to reverse engineer something. I think there's a cracked version of Photoshop every 2 weeks, and it can be done. But when you talk about like code security, a lot of the times it's for people who are maybe thinking of piracy or about security issues. And we've had this with a lot of the games that we do with the portable. We work with a lot of indies, we work with Humble Bundle, and we have a strict non-DRM stance. But we see some really funny things, like in China especially. People going into apps and ripping out the IAP mechanisms to tie them to third parties and then reship them in China. And it happens. And so that's usually kind of what prompts people to immediately think, well, we probably need a solution that will solve obfuscating or doing some kind of DRM system within our game. And most of the time, I believe, like, it's not really worth it. If somebody's going to go to that trouble to hack your game like that, then let them have it. There's other ways to kind of skirt it, tie in like multiplayer, and then that will kill it. Because if you could always validate the other client from the other side. And there's simple ways to do it without going to that level. And so even though like in the JavaScript and Flash scenarios, like it's easier to reverse engineer, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Well, you know, it doesn't, it doesn't. It depends what you do. I mean, for Sidekick, he's creating games, portfolio of games, and we're working with different partners. Essentially, whether we license the game or just doing work for hire, big part of our ability to provide good service to our partner is ability to develop fast, very stable game. And the infrastructure that every studio creates for itself is actually its own kind of secret sauce. We do not want that secret sauce to be out, because otherwise everybody would be able to develop fast, portfolio of game. And if you're a studio that's doing one game, or you're a smaller outfit, it might it's less relevant. But if you're more work for hire studio, the internal tools are extremely important for you, and they're extremely valuable for you.
But do you see more people that are cloning your games more than actually stealing the IP from the original one? Because like in the cloning game, that's something we really can't even stop, and because like it's legal unless they're like stealing some assets or you have a patent or something. But is it actually stealing? Do you get that very often?
So again, we're using Unity. We're using the tools that we use. We don't know anybody who's coming in and steal that or this part of the infrastructure. We want to think that this does not happen. When anybody wants to steal the wrapping, the graphic theme, certain features, it's very hard to cover that. Obviously, most of the hacks are actually hacks into the system. So, I think less than 24 hours after Romans from Mars was released, we had the first YouTube video posted. Somebody did that, obviously, somewhere in Asia, about how to do X, Y, Z and get all the coins and gems that you'd like to have in the game. That's obviously like the first thing that people do.
Well, I want to give a chance for the audience. Any questions for the audience? I think we've learned from that server-side validation is essential for an online game. I think we've learned that. Christian, go ahead.
Trying to kind of poke holes in each of your positions, just to sort of challenge. Native guy, well, that's pretty pure. I don't see any need to criticize that. It's not for me, but best of luck.
Fair enough.
HTML5, I don't think I need to criticize you. You do a pretty good job criticizing it yourself. So, but I think your investment will pay off, and I wish you luck. So no, my questions are for these, for Unity and Gingy. For Gingy, actually what is different, Gingy,
Yeah.
what is different between what you're doing and Flash with Air? It sounds like you're just duplicating what they already do.
No, actually no. We have a lot of, it will probably be easier to actually show you, but we do have a very big amount of a performance boost, hundreds of % of performance boost, because we take control of the assets and the assets representation on the screen. We do work with other engines that are very popular today, like Starling and Dragon Bones frameworks that take use of Stage 3D, and we also improve the performances on those. I'm talking also about the Liquid UI, which it's not scaling, it's more of spreading your UI on the device smartly, and it's automatically done. So basically, most of the work that we do is actually saving a lot of programming to actually not have differentiated pipelines for, let's say, iPad and iPhone 5 or iPad and Nexus 5, stuff like that. That the resolution base are very, very differentiated. You still can do a single asset base and a single code base and publish it everywhere. So it's a huge time saver and a huge money saver for all of those. And I'm talking not only on mobile, because this is the thing that I want to stretch out. I'm talking also on web and mobile. You can have a single code base and deploy it to web and to an iPhone or an iPad or a Nexus or whatever. So basically you can create a game, and it will probably take you less time to create a game with Gingy, because it is a set of tools that actually take down development times. But
That's the same as Air.
What type of game?
yeah, of course, I'm not talking about 3D games, of course, and I'm talking about 2D games. There is a set of tools that will save you a lot of time creating your UI and most of the game. And you can go to the website. There is a lot of open source games that you can download and view for yourself how easier it is to actually use what we're doing. Can you take the mic? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
It's more like a WYSIWYG solution that you can drag and drop stuff in your
No,
stand.
we have that. We
Yeah,
have that.
That's what I'm
But
saying. As a
no,
difference.
we have that, but that's not the emphasis here, because I'm guessing that most of the people here are actually developers. So we have a drag and drop solution, and it's pretty good, and you can see it, and it saves a lot of time. But I am talking about, even if you are a coding ninja and you like your coding, and this is what I do. I never make games in IDEs. I'm a programmer in soul. So even if you are a coding ninja and you want to use only code, it's very easy to, let's say, one of the things, I will give an example, okay? You can do all the settings of your game. The common setting of the game is an XML. You can change it, and all the game changes immediately. So there are a lot of common stuff that are being done out of the box with Gingy that saves a lot of programming time for you. That's the gist. There's a lot more. I can answer later on.
And I wanted to ask Unity, you've clearly emerged as maybe the winner for 3D, even amongst the panel. And it's kicking ass in the world, it seems. Is there anything could you criticize it for us? Could you tell us what doesn't work?
Sure. So, and again, I'm not the technical person, around this table, but I think when you develop with Unity, you get a lot of tools, a lot of stuff that's already made or pre-made, in readiness for a lot of platform, and that actually creates certain overhead. So your game would be, I want to say, heavier, and you will need to spend time to optimize it if you are looking for a very broad market exposure. When you create a game and you don't do optimization, and usually the first games that you do, you don't necessarily put optimization in a high priority at first, your game would be CPU intensive, let's say. It would take a lot of memory. We take a nice chunk of our development time closer to soft launch to actually work and very closely with as many technology partners that we can, and obviously internally, to optimize the game and make it a bit more lighter, so it would cover more platforms, more, I want to say, low-end platforms, and make sure it runs quicker and smoother, because at the end of the day, and especially on mobile, people have less patience for waiting, loading screens, etc. So that would be my main kind of, I wish it would be easier.
Any more questions?
A correction, I think, for the Air SDK is free. You don't need to have a Creative Cloud account.
Yeah.
You can just download it, and
Yeah.
with Flash Develop, for example, you can develop with no cost. And a question. Cost of development for, let's say, a Bejeweled clone. We spoke about clones. Just a very rough estimation of how many people should work per technology to have it in how much time?
I think it's totally dependent on the game genre, the type of game, and what you do. At Sidekick, I can tell you, and we're developing games for companies like DNA, other publishers. Our model is to have one one programmer, and usually 1 to 2 artists. That would be the core team, and that team would grow pending on need. But we're trying to get to a level where a game is out to soft launch within 5 months, and usually, over maybe a month and a half, like 6 weeks over that time, we'll add another technical person and other resources, so QA and stuff like that. So it's very, very efficient, again, given the fact that we already developed nice number of games with that platform. And so we have a lot of tools and the infrastructure.
So basically, I would repeat what he said, that this is a very abstract question. It's very hard to answer that because it depends on the extent of your game. But basically, if we disregard the fights that we get with the graphic and the programmers, getting everything right visually, if we talk about a casual 2D game and we're talking about something, I'll give an example, okay? If we talk about a game like a very simple game like Flappy Bird or something like that, you can do it one programmer in a few hours and that's it, and it's done. If we talk about something with a little bit more extent, which we are just working on something with one studio, we get one programmer working on that. It's a very complex game. It throws data from real stock market. This is what runs the game, and it has a very intensive, it's a multiplayer game, so it has a very intensive server side. So we had a server-side programmer, one server-side programmer, one client-side programmer, and it took approximately a month and a half, including the graphics work and getting the customer happy. So this is the extent for a really sophisticated game that actually has a UI that's unique. And
yeah, we actually did something as an experiment to see how long it would take for us to create a match 3 game, and we were able to, with a senior developer, get it done within a couple of days. We had a basic match 3 game for as an alternative battle mechanic for one of our previous games as an experiment. I would say that because it's kind of an abstract question, if I were to kind of guesstimate how much longer it takes to do something in HTML5 versus something like in Flash, it's still longer, even with like a very, very deep tool set, but we're definitely narrowing the gap a lot with the internal tools that we've built. Like we've gone from 2 to 10 times longer to like 1 to 2 times longer than native or Flash. But the nice thing is that we have a lot of advantages that come along with it, like being able to update in real time, a cross-platform, and etc.
So it's a hard question to say what is like going to be to the quality of being something that's like visual, but I can tell you, and these are fantastic numbers, but we work with a company called Make Games With Us that has written documentation using Sprite Builder and using Coco Studio, and so they currently have a match 3 game that you can do with Sprite Builder using Coco Studio in 35 minutes. They have an Angry Birds in 6 minutes, and they have a Flappy Bird in 9 minutes. Those are fantastic numbers. That assumes you have a designer that's that fast too. But it is totally possible. But there's a lot of, it is kind of a big question. And the number of engineers you're going to need is going to vary depending on what your feature set are. And are you going to integrate third-party SDKs? And like how detailed are the animations really going to be? And there's too many variables to kind of predict right now without putting like a spec sheet together and telling you. But generally, I think all of us have rapid development tools, and that's like the holy grail at the moment, is the faster that you can get a game and iterate, then that's where the sweet spot is. And I think there's not one of us that doesn't work towards making sure that developers can stay focused on game design and not spending hours and hours and hours twirling away building an engine. No.
Okay, starting at the end and coming back this way. Give me an example. I'll let you do 2 each. One you've been involved in, one you haven't been. What game best represents the platform of your choice and the idea of, this is the personification of what really cool things can be done in this platform? So one you've been involved with and one you just really respect.
One I've been involved with. So we assist developers and we help power their games. So a lot of the times we indirectly are involved. But wow, there's so many. Ridiculous Fishing, I think, is a good one that I've been glad to help out with.
Who knows Ridiculous Fishing?
Yeah, they're here. Yep. So that was ported with us to Android. They didn't use us initially to go to iOS. They just came to us afterwards. So it's a different story. But if you want to talk about native, every AAA title.
Fair answer. Okay, Albert. What game do you say? This is proud. This is done HTML5.
It is biased, but we created our flagship title is called Tiny Kingdoms, and it's one of, if not the most sophisticated HTML5 mobile application that's on the market today. But and there's a distinction between mobile HTML5 and desktop. Mobile is just 10 times harder because you're dealing with a much lower power device with a lot more restrictions. On the web, I think there's a lot of really cool WebGL and Canvas demos out there. Sadly, there aren't nearly as many, fully production level games. But I think you're going to see more.
But you're not going to pin one down. Other than your own title, you would name at least one that you think is really cool.
This is actually a really cool, I think it's from a Ukrainian company called Pure Token, and they have a 2D physics game that's done in pure HTML5 that runs in the mobile browser and tablet, and it looks fully native. It's actually quite cool and fun.
Okay. What are you really proud of and say, hey, this was done using our technology?
Okay, basically, the best example I can give is one of the very short past. A company came to us in Israel. They have around 100 developers, and they had a game that was built on Flash, actually ActionScript 2, 6 years ago, and they ported it to ActionScript 3 patch by patch. They had 350 megabytes of assets, something horrible. It killed me. I didn't sleep for days, and just thinking about it. And they wanted us to actually, they said that it was something that they don't think is possible to be porting to mobile air. And I told them that I'm gonna prove them wrong, and we took that game. It took 2.5 weeks. We took that game exactly, and all of you can come to our booth and actually view it working on mobile and see it with your own eyes. We've ported it. It's a very big extent game. It's kind
What's
of.
the name? We want to know the name of it.
The name is Bamba. It doesn't mean anything to anyone here, so I don't know, but because it's an Israeli.
It's been recorded. We'll look it up.
No, it's an Israeli title, so it was for the Israeli audience. But it's a very big game. It's just to give you an idea of the game itself, the gameplay. It's kind of Heroes of the Might and Magic meets a little baby. So it's, I know it tells you a lot. Everybody has an image in their mind now, so I'm happy. But it's a quest game that you're fighting enemies and using magic and perfecting yourself. So it has 20 enemies, very, very sophisticated art, vector-based. It's a lot of stuff that shouldn't work on mobile, and Gingy made that happen. So.
That's one, you're allowed two.
Flash games, Air Flash. You have I don't know. You have if you look at the web, you can see the best example is Candy Crush. It's the best thing you can.
Anybody heard of Candy Crush? There we go. Okay, Unity 3D, the one that you've been involved with, and just one that you think is a really cool use of Unity technology.
Well, it's Unity 3D. I mean, the amount of games on that is crazy. If you are doing a cool game, whatever size you are, Unity would actually promote this. They have it on their website. One of my favorite games is actually The Room. I think the team there did an amazing job in general, game design, but the visual side, you really took Unity in terms of the visual aspect of it to places where I saw very, very few teams doing that. Obviously, The Room 2. From our perspective, Romans for Mars did very well. And the reason I'm proud there is that we managed to use the engine in such a way that it works great on phone, it works even better on tablet, it works great on PCs. And we just tested it on large screens, let's say, and it translates perfectly. And again, using this Unity 3D, it just was an easy path for us.
Well, we've officially run out of time. I want to thank the panel very much for their honesty